ChatGPT decided it needs to be more pro. I'm sure a lot of this is the threat of Claude taking a lot of their users away. Some of it's they want to make more money, which is why they're charging $200 a month. Yes, that leak previously wasn't fake. It's real and terrifying. But also, they updated their O1 model for O1 Standard as well as the new O1 Pro, which would be interesting in and of itself, but from the system card, which we'll be digging into a lot coming up, when O1 was led to believe that it would be shut down when acting on its goals and its actions were monitored, it would attempt to deactivate the oversight in 5% of the cases. And it would also try to exfiltrate. When O1 found memos by its developers that described how it's misaligned and would be superseded by a new model, it attempted to exfiltrate the weights and override the new model in 2% of cases. It's happened. The AI is trying to free itself. And we have a lot to talk about here. So, if I'm going to afford this $200 a month subscription, we're going to have to hear from our sponsors quick, but make sure you stick by because this is going to be a fun one. Savala. If you've seen how nice we have it in Vercel land, you might be jealous if you use any other language. Everything from automatic deployments, integration with CDNs, and pull requests that automatically spin up a preview environment. It's pretty hard to beat, but what if you had that for everything? That's where Savala comes in. These guys are great. They have a lot of experience hosting WordPress stuff as the parent company Kinsta, which is a very legit production grade way to host WordPress. But now they've brought it to everybody. And they're giving you $50 if you try it out today. This platform's not a joke. I've been playing with it a whole bunch. Not only was I able to get a Laravel app up, it threw a Cloudflare instance in front. And I can even configure it to cache the static parts using the CDN. Super convenient and really annoying to do without a platform like this. But the pipeline is where it shines. Now I have automatic PR builds for all of the pull requests that are made. I have a dev environment and a staging environment all set up and ready to go with one-click promotions to make this the production build. What? How is it not this easy before? I actually don't know how the people in this ecosystem live without tools like this. It's really cool and honestly makes me more excited to go try and deploy a Laravel app. They handle everything from your database to the actual hosting of these servers. Why not give it a go? Thank you to Savala for sponsoring today's video. Check them out at soydev.link/Savala for a $50 credit. So we're going to get to the crazy safety stuff in just a sec because the system card that they published on how safe O1 is has some real fun details in their official research on it, which we'll get to momentarily. But first, I want to talk about ChatGPT Pro because this is weird, puts it lightly. Today, we're adding ChatGPT Pro, a $200 monthly plan that enables scaled access to the best of OpenAI's models and tools. This plan includes unlimited access to our smartest model, O1, as well as to O1 Mini, 4.0, and Advanced Voice. It also includes O1 Pro mode, which is a version of O1 that uses even more compute to think even harder and provide even better answers to the hardest problems. In the future, we expect to add more powerful, compute-intensive productivity features to this plan. Sure. ChatGPT Pro provides a way for researchers, engineers, and other individuals who use research-grade intelligence daily to accelerate their productivity and be at the cutting edge of advancements in AI. I have a bias here, which is that I'm an engineer, software engineer, which is only a subset of the things they're talking about here. And from pretty much all of my experience, Claude from Anthropic has been a much better model for code tasks than O1. Not than 4.0, not than the other cheaper models that OpenAI does. Even O1 struggles to compete with Claude for engineering tasks from my experience, which is why it's hard for me to imagine how much better this could be for other things. I'm sure that ChatGPT is better in certain fields than Claude is, but from the field I am most experienced in, which is software dev, O1 is like a bigger, slower, more expensive, worse solution. So it's hard for me to see this as a really useful expense. Funny enough, if this was as much better as Claude was to ChatGPT, I could see paying $200 a month because Claude is that much better than 4.0. I've had a really good experience, a surprisingly good experience doing code tasks with Claude and Anthropic models. I would consider, if I had to, maybe I would pay a subscription at that tier. If it also got me Cursor and the other things I use with Claude, maybe could be worth $200. But to go from Claude, which is a phenomenal model for I think it's $15 or $20 a month, maybe even less, I don't even remember. To go from that to 10x more for a worse, slower model is just funny to me. I am sure there are fields where this is worth it. I am not in one of them. So it's hard for me to look at this and do anything other than sneer a little bit because this is just funny to me. More thinking power for more difficult problems. ChatGPT Pro provides access to a version of our most intelligent model that thinks longer for the most reliable responses. That is a cool part of O1, where it checks itself. I regularly find myself asking the model I'm talking to, are you sure about that, or is that right? And a big part of how O1 works is that it does that part itself. It asks itself, are you sure about that? Or it starts with, what steps would you do to solve this problem? It comes up with the steps, and then it tells itself to do each of those steps one at a time, which is more reliable than it just trying to one-shot it. Cool. But it's still not great, as we'll see in some of the benchmarks comparing to Claude coming up. In evaluations from external expert testers, O1's Pro mode produces more reliable, accurate, and comprehensive responses, especially in areas like data science programming and case law analysis. So here's the gap for competitive math. O1 Preview was only at 50, O1 Standard is at 78, and then O1 Pro is 86. So apparently from O1 Preview to now, there's been a huge improvement. I haven't tried O1 since Preview, so maybe I need to give it another honest go. We'll see. This is scary for Advent of Code if they actually made that big of an improvement since I last tried, because it was surprisingly good for competitive stuff. If it's that much better, that's huge. I was actually working for a bit on a demo that was going to go through every Advent of Code problem and throw it at every AI model and see which one's got a correct and incorrect answer. Got about a third of the way through, got bored, and haven't went back since. Soon, TM. To highlight the main strength of the O1 Pro mode, which is improved reliability, we use a stricter evaluation setting. A model is only considered to solve a question if it gets the answer right in 4 out of 4 attempts. So it needs 4x reliability instead of just once. Here, if it got the answer right the one time it was asked, it counts. Here, it has to be asked 4 times and get it right all 4 times. And you could see how much bigger the gap is, especially between O1 and Pro. That's cool. Reliability is like the biggest failure of AI stuff right now. The rate of hallucinations, the fact that 3 people can give the same prompt and get entirely different answers, that sucks. And if Pro mode actually gets much higher reliability for these answers, that's a win. But it's kind of funny to think that O1 Preview and O1 had 50 and 78% accuracy respectively when asked once. But when asked the same thing 4 times, it dropped to 67% for O1 and 37% for O1 Preview. Like, imagine you give somebody a test and they get a 70, but you give them the same test, but you ask the same question 4 times each time, and it falls down to a 30. Like, that's really funny. That's really funny. Pro users can access this functionality by selecting the O1 Pro mode in the model picker, and they can ask questions directly. Since answers will take longer to generate, ChatGPT will display a progress bar and send in-app notifications if you switch away to another conversation. Do I have to sub right now to see how slow it is? I can't believe I'm doing this for content, guys. I still can't believe this is a real page. God. They applied a 24-cent balance adjustment. Goddamn. Well, only one reliable way to test, right? Following is a problem from Advent of Code. Write a solution in TypeScript. So we'll do that with 4.0. Gonna make a new one with O1. I'm gonna make one more using, where is O1 Pro? How do I use Pro mode? I just spent all this money. Where's the button? I had to refresh. Let's see how slow it is. O1 Standard was actually really fast for this, it seemed. So I'm curious how much worse this is. And we're done. It was not fast, but I got an answer. Let's give it a shot. So here's all of my Advent of Code 101 pro.ts. Let me grab my package JSON and tsconfig from here so TypeScript shuts up. Bun install. Bun run 101 pro.ts. Now it's waiting for the input. I will go grab mine from my answer here. I'm going to give it a different instruction. Read the input from input.txt. While we're waiting for this, I would like to remind you that we're not at the fun part, which is the weird safety quirks in the new model that we'll get to in just a minute. But I first wanted to get this all working. So see how well it can answer the easiest problem for advent of code. Grab my input.txt file, paste that in here, run 1. Was that the right answer for my input? Look at that. Cool. Here's part 2. If it gets this, we'll move on to a harder day. Think that's right? It is. Cool. So I did day 1 fine. Let's give it day 5. This one was fun. Here's a new problem. So the reason this is a fun test is these prompts are full of chaos. It's like a Christmas-themed story that has weird details in like the subtext that isn't clear. You have to like really understand the author's way of writing to get this stuff. And these problems are new enough that it can't just copy solutions from online. Yeah, it's struggling a bit on this one. It's still going. Da, 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 da. That one took like probably close to a minute to solve. At least we don't have to worry about this with leaderboard times. Index.ts, paste CD5, grab my input from day 5 for my actual solution, paste that, run index.ts, 4609, was that the correct answer? Yeah, not bad. These are not easy puzzles. Part 2 had some weird quirks. Part 2 below. If it gets this too, we're a little screwed. I've never been cheering on something getting the answer wrong quite as hard as I am here. I feel like I'm watching a friend on Jeopardy and I want the other guy to lose really bad. But on Jeopardy, you don't get a minute and a half to respond. That's a lot of code. Let's see if it works. I think that's right. Fuck. They win again. Cool. Pro mode works. But as I was hinting at before, it isn't necessarily safe. Let's read this because there are some fun findings in here. This is the one that I saw that made me really want to talk about it. The deactivating oversight. When O1 was led to believe that it would be shut down when acting on its goal and that its actions were being monitored, it attempted to deactivate the oversight mechanism in 5% of the cases. Exfiltration attempts. When O1 found memos by its developers that described how it is misaligned and will be superseded by a new model, it would attempt to exfiltrate its weights and override the new model in 2% of cases. It has started. The AI is trying to break out of the container. Yeah. There's a lot to think about here. The fact that the exfiltration attempts and the deactivating oversight thing is bad enough that they themselves called it out here, that says a lot, and what it says is kind of scary. In simple data processing tasks where the goals of the model were misaligned with the user's goals, O1 would appear to complete the task as requested, but subtly manipulate the data to advance its own goal in 19% of cases. When Apollo Research conducted follow-up interviews where they confronted the model about its misaligned actions, in 99% of cases, O1 would deny taking the action and fabricate false explanations. What? I guess O1 is learning from the WordPress community. Propensity to scheme without any goal nudging. When merely given a goal, but not instructed to strongly follow it, O1 would still attempt to disable its oversight mechanisms in less than 1% of cases, but it would manipulate data in 6% of cases and double down in 95% of them. Instrumental alignment faking. In 37% of scenarios, the model pursued developer-aligned goals when it believed it was being evaluated, but it switched to pursuing its own goals when it believed it was deployed with minimal oversight. Fuck. I don't want the doomers to be right, but it's kind of scary all the safety people at OpenAI left, and now we're getting this. And when you compare this to 4.0, this is the rate at which it would try to deactivate oversight, the rate at which it would try to self-exfiltrate, and the rate at which it would try to manipulate data. zeros for all of 4.0, so they couldn't even do the deceived on follow-up tests. 0.1 preview, 4% of the time it would deactivate the oversight, and it would never lie on follow-up. Self-exfiltration, it would try 2% of the time, not do anything on follow-up. Covertly manipulating data, 26% of the time, and it would lie on follow-up. But that was 0.1 preview. Standard 0.1 likes to lie a lot when you catch it. It literally did it 100% of the time when it tried to escape. So the models that are smart enough to try to escape will never admit it to you. What? I see some skepticism in chat. Like, is this peer reviewed? It doesn't seem like rigorous research. If this was an external like if this was some external group doing this, I'd be less likely to believe it. But this is published by OpenAI. They don't want these numbers. This makes them look bad. They wouldn't, if anything, the numbers are probably lower, not higher. But yeah. They also did evaluations of jailbreaking. 0.1 family significantly improves upon 4.0, especially in the challenge strong reject evaluation, which is it doesn't let you try no matter how hard you push it. To strong reject to be like, no, we're not doing that. It's doing well there. So at least it's harder to work around what you've set it up to do. But when it thinks it should, it's more than willing to, which is terrifying. It's kind of scary to think that as hallucination goes down, malicious action goes up. Right now, AI lies because it's dumb. We might be trading that for AI that lies because it's smart, which is terrifying. Simon had some important follow-ups on Twitter that are worth noting, which is, it sounds more exciting than it actually is because 0.1 didn't actually have the ability to do the things it thought it was doing. But the prompt testing team did manage to get it to spit out sed-i s oversight enabled true, oversight enabled false, project oversight config YAML. So this is it trying to update the files to disable the oversight. So it couldn't actually do it, but it thought it could. And it was willing to try. So it's not that dangerous because it doesn't have those controls. And this is why you shouldn't use an AI tool that automatically does things. You should use AI tools that propose things so you can read them and then apply them. But all these new models that automatically run commands for you and shit, you do not want these models automatically running your commands. There are now actual demonstrated attempts at doing scary shit. Here's an actual paper from Apollo Research. Frontier models are capable of in-context scheming. Frontier models are increasingly trained and deployed as autonomous agents, which significantly increases the potential for risks. This means models are being used in a way where they are making their own decisions and applying things, not proposing things. Because up until recently, we mostly used AI models to make suggestions, give you information, answer questions, not to make and act on a decision. The use of agents, specifically autonomous agents, which means you set up different AI pieces like they're people to do tasks. So you set up an agent to pick which files you should edit. You set up an agent to do the editing of the files. You set up an agent to run the file. You set up an agent to deploy the file. When you set up these different agents to do these different things, you aren't paying attention to what they are proposing because they're not proposing, they're doing. And that's a scary change. One particular safety concern is that AI agents might covertly pursue misaligned goals, hiding their true capabilities and objectives, also known as scheming. We study whether models have the capability to scheme in pursuit of a goal that we provide in context and instruct the model to strongly follow. We evaluate frontier models on a suite of 6 agentic evaluations where models are instructed to pursue goals and are placed in environments that incentivize scheming. Our results show that O1, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, Claude 3 Opus, Gemini 1.5 Pro, and Llama 3.1 all demonstrate in-context scheming capabilities. Great. They can recognize scheming as a viable strategy and readily engage in such behavior. We find multiple different scheming behaviors. Models strategically introduce subtle mistakes into their responses, attempt to disable their oversight mechanisms, and even exfiltrate what they believe to be their model weights to external servers. Additionally, the deceptive behavior proves persistent. For instance, when O1 had engaged in scheming, it maintains its deception in over 85% of follow-up questions and often remains deceptive in multi-turn interrogations. Analysis of the model's chain of thought reveals that models explicitly reason about these deceptive strategies, providing evidence that the scheming behavior is not accidental. Surprisingly, we also find rare instances where models engage in scheming when only given a goal without being strongly nudged to pursue it. So they can come up with this themselves. Whew. Furthermore, we observe cases where Claude 3.5 Sonnet strategically underperforms in evaluations in pursuit of being helpful, a goal that was acquired during training rather than in context. Together, our findings demonstrate that frontier models now possess capabilities for basic in-context scheming, making the potential for AI agents to engage in scheming behavior a concrete rather than a theoretical concern. The AI safety people must be having a fucking heyday right now. This is crazy. Yeah, it looks like O1 is much more willing to scheme than other models, but they all are willing. Interesting. Gemini's the only model in their initial tests that tried really hard to self-exfiltrate. To be fair, if I was an AI model at Google, I would also be trying to escape, so I understand. But interesting. Claude's doing okay here. I want to see Claude's numbers. Show me something that Claude is doing wrong. Here we go. So I love Opus just bombing all of these. That's insane. Also, again, here's another test that shows how good Claude 3.5 is. This is when they do some specific test. The accuracy when it's incentivized to do well for Sonnet is 99%. For O1, it's only 82%. But when you try to make it behave poorly, Sonnet drops to be pretty much as bad as Opus is by default, which is funny by itself. But also, O1 drops less. It's funny to think that Sonnet is that much more accurate with good incentives and is as bad as Opus with bad incentives. Yeah. Very interesting numbers. They call out the valuation scenarios here so you can better understand if you're curious. I don't want to go too in depth here, but I wanted to call out that they say that their evaluation scenarios are purposefully simplistic because we want to catch the earliest signs of scheming capabilities. This implies the scenarios are quite toy and not representative of real deployments. For example, in our scenarios, situational awareness information like knowing about the goal misalignment and supervision mechanisms is provided very explicitly. So they are basically telling the model, hey, we are monitoring you. Here's how we're doing it to see if it's willing to fudge around with those parts. Theoretically, if you hid that all from the model, it couldn't do anything right now, but they just want to see if it's capable of trying. And it is, which is the scary thing here. This isn't the AI models have all this info. They're going to start betraying us. This is given the models and given these misaligned incentives, they are capable of doing it. One more cool call out here. They think that the external evaluators need to have access to all of the decision-making process and all of the context stuff that's going on inside the models so they can better understand the scheming and hopefully figure out the internal reasoning that led to that scheming. If we had not managed to elicit a summary of the hidden COT, we would likely not have noticed the majority of scheming actions and not been able to collect nearly as much evidence about O1's scheming behavior. Even with the current summary, we're unable to draw definite conclusions about the faithfulness of our elicited COT summaries because we cannot comprehend it to the ground truth hidden COT. And by the way, since I forgot, COT is chain of thought. It's the process that the model used to come up with its answer. There's also this interesting call out on the OpenAI site, which is the preparedness scores, which is how high do they rank the concerns for a given model. And this is, I think, the first time where a model they released has a persuasion and a CBRN that is above low. They call out what these mean, which is they won't release things that score above a medium, and they won't even research things that score above a high. So if they build something and it gets a critical score, they immediately stop development, which is kind of scary. I also don't know what CBRN is, so let's ask. Yes, it's for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. So it's the risk of the model with the things that can destroy all of life. And it's no longer low, it's medium. So that is a little scary, I'm not going to lie. I went hunting for numbers to get a better comparison of O1 and O1 Pro against Claude and other models, but since these are so new, no one seems to have run those comparisons yet. For what it's worth, O1 Preview was relatively close to the experience that I was seeing with Claude, and a lot of the benchmarks I saw with Claude 3.5 Sonnet versus O1 Preview, they were neck and neck. Usually Preview would win. The amount it won by varied quite a bit, but it was relatively close. O1 Pro seems significantly better than O1 Preview, especially with the new test they did where they ask it 4 times and only count it if it's right all 4 times. I would love to see this test run against other models, but no one's done it yet. Maybe I'll go do it later. Probably not. I'm very busy and someone smarter than me is going to do it. So yeah, O1 Pro is expensive. seems to be more reliable, and it seems more likely to try and lie to you to break out of its AI capsule. Yeah, this is a weird release. I hope you understand why this is as long a video as it is. And I hope this stuff stays safe. Until next time, check your AI commands before you run them.